the investments, that have been announced by Mukesh Ambani. What else really stood out for you in today's AGM announcements?
So few things, sorry for I think this disconnection, but a few things I think which came out very clearly. 3.5 lakh crore worth of investment program that he has put across, out of which 2 lakh crore investment is going in the area of I think geo related net 5G network, I think which is being rolled out. And I think the larger part of the clarity has come today in form of I think investment into the 5G related network. So on one side you have the mobility, on the other side you have got fiber to home, and now I think that today the specific announcement has come as far as fiber to enterprise is concerned. And within fiber to enterprise, I think the detail has been given across different verticals, starting from agriculture to education to healthcare to gaming, fintech, e-commerce, etc. And
Hmm.
each of these verticals would possibly have a larger amount of applications to start. I think from this particular network that they'll be rolling out.
Hmm.
That does mean that 2 lakh crore worth of investment would possibly result into, I think, a revenue of, if not more, I think around 2 lakh 50,000 crores eventually. And I think that means that I think the profit EBITDA at around, I think, 1 lakh crore out of this new investment. So currently, Geo is already making about 50,000 crore worth of EBITDA, and that is growing steadily at around 25%. With
Hmm.
this new investment coming in, I think additional 1 lakh crore worth of EBITDA can be expected. So Geo per se would be the largest contributor of profits into the entire Reliance, because
Hmm.
O2C business is contributing about 50,000 crore worth of EBITDA. And if that
Hmm.
is growing at around 10% or so, then probably Geo would be the largest contributor of the EBITDA into the Reliance's balance sheet going forward.
Right. Also, Mr. Choksey, do today's announcements give you the confidence that Reliance Industries could definitely be a stock that one should hold for a long-term portfolio, could unlock the value for shareholders in the long term, despite the kind of outperformance that we've seen recently from Reliance Industries over the past 1.5, 2 years or so? Do you think the outperformance could continue?
So I have been maintaining my view that if Reliance industry is basically across all its verticals, is putting across this year, there would be around 1,40,000, 1,50,000 crore worth of EBITDA. Last year it was somewhere around 125,000 crore EBITDA. So I think the point which I'm trying to say is that this is a new business coming up, which I explained about Geo. I think even the new material segment where 75,000 crore worth of investment is taking place, that in
Hmm.
itself, I think would have the ability to contribute around 40-50,000 crore worth of EBITDA.
Hmm.
And at
Hmm.
the same time, I think the 75,000 crore worth of investment happening now in O2C business, that in a way, I think would also generate additional around 15 to 20,000 crore worth of EBITDA. So all in all put together, if you see, I think the Reliance from the core business itself, I think on a generic basis is growing. At the same time, new investment will bring additional growth. I see possibility of around doubling the size of the profit, I think, over next 3 years or so.
Hmm.
Should that be the situation, then Reliance could stock price could possibly on 25 to 30% kind of CAGR return for investors in next 3 to 4 years time.
I think, Deven, you would have something special to talk about it because it has been one of your favorite stocks as well that you've been talking about for years now. Today, we also heard Isha Mani talk about the foray into the FMCG space that they may want to do this year. There's also, big bang announcements coming in on the new energy space. They've acquired 100% REC, moving forward with the energy parks going forward, the battery packs as well. So the EV story may play out. How are you reading into all of this in terms of the kind of value it can unlock for shareholders?
So I think let me I think put across few numbers and then probably I think expand on this particular subject. On a 5 lakh crore worth of O2C revenue, I think they are making about 50,000 crore worth of EBITDA. On a Geo platform, about a 1 lakh crore worth of revenue, they are making 50,000 crore worth of EBITDA. From the for oil exploration business on an annualized basis, going by the I think higher production and the new gas prices that they are fetching, they should be
Hmm.
doing about 20,000 crore worth of EBITDA in the current year from oil exploration business. In
Hmm.
the retail business, on a 2 lakh crore worth of revenue, they are making an EBITDA on an annualized basis. Now this year, I think it'll be around 20,000 crores.
Hmm.
So all in all put together, I don't count, I think the new material segment of business, I think just count, I think this many businesses they've created, consumer facing business and the industrial business. So
Hmm.
consumer facing businesses are basically producing an EBITDA of around 70,000 crore in the current year. And the current year, I think the conventional business of oil to gas and I think the oil exploration business put close to somewhere around 70,000 crore equal amount of EBITDA. So I think they are coming at a balanced level. My understanding is that I think the growth in the consumer facing business is going to expand faster. And that is where a case for I think this company investing significantly higher amount of money into the new businesses. That is what I think the announcement is all about. So that is where I believe that I think the important aspect is. As far as I think the retail business is concerned and the FMCG entry is concerned, yes, I think the two aspects are important. One, you have your own brands. In retail business, I think the companies who make maximum amount of money, they
Hmm.
make money out of their own brands. If you look at the last year, I think the amount of acquisitions that they've done in the retail business, in order
Yeah.
to promote their own brands, I believe that I think the growth in the retail business margin would be significantly higher than what we have seen in the past. Otherwise, I think a core commodity retail business fetches only 3.5% margin. Here, in case of Reliance, I think it fetches 8% to 8.5% margin. So, from that perspective, I believe that I think the business of retail is going to be significantly looked up going forward, given the kind of presence of own brands and at the same time, I think the commodity segment brands that they are having. All in all, put together, I think the new material segment business, I think, is extremely promising. You look at, I think, one important aspect on one side there you started using the biomass into the production in the refining. So 5% of the energy cost is now basically being substituted with the biomass. Going
Hmm.
forward in next 2-3 years, I think this biomass contribution in the energy consumption in the refining segment per se would be around 20-25%. So that straight away adds to the profits and profitability of the company, which is fundamentally very, very important when we look at the conventional business, right? Other side, I think if you look at new material business, in the solar panel business, in solar panel business, I think it currently is producing the yield of around 90 to 21% on a per square feet basis of, I think, the real estate of solar panel.
Hmm.
Now, they have made an announcement that this is a new panel which they are basically putting across will have 26% yield for now and 28% yield by 2027, which means they're talking about 30% improvement in the yield from the same real estate space of the solar panel, which is basically going to generate higher amount of power and power related activities. Storage is another aspect. Hydrogen, green hydrogen, 20 gigawatts of additional capacity is being created only for creating the green hydrogen for their own setup. If they start using green hydrogen for their own setup to begin with, I think they're bringing down the cost of energy significantly from current levels of cost that they are basically incurring. And that
Hmm.
could possibly a profit margin generator for them. And for the mobility segment, electrolyzer process that they're creating, that particular process eventually, I think, would create a new segment for us to sell the electricity using the mobility segment to the mobility segment. So
Hmm.
overall, if you look at, I think, the entire structure of new material segment and the existing businesses, the company is appearing to have set itself for a profit EBITDA of around 2 lakh to 2 lakh 50,000 crores going for 2.5 to 3 years or 4 years at the most from a current level of 1 lakh 40,000 crores. The entire fabric of the business is changing. And that is what I think more important as far as I think understanding on the business is concerned.
Mr. Choksey, what is the timeline that you see of the separate IPO of retail and Geo coming in? And we've not heard anything concrete on those timelines. 2019 we heard about 5 years, but today we've not heard very very concrete steps. How long do you see will it take for this demerger to happen and to list?
The demerger, believe that I think has already happened. There are separate companies run by separate board and I think separate management. So that part has already happened. As far as I think the separate listing part is concerned, I think generally they have been talking about it that I think in 5 to 6 years time after the commercial operations have stabilized, I think they would like to go for listing. I believe that I think they have already started making, as I explained, I think started making significantly large amount of profits already, and it is now possibly the time to I think look around for the listing part. Now,
Hmm.
when it will happen, how it will happen, where it will happen, I think that's something which we can all guess. But at this point of time, I think the standalone basis, I think all these companies are well funded. They are already making good amount of profits, and even this 2 lakh crore worth of investment which Geo platform is talking about, that
Hmm.
could be the opportunity for inviting the listing of this company either in
Hmm.
India or maybe outside India.
Right. I was asking you about the succession plans when we got disconnected. So help me understand, what do you make of the responsibilities now being passed on, the reins being taken over by the next gen, them being mentored by the top leadership at the current level, and how, this transition is taking place, and what will it mean for all the shareholders and investors?
Extremely important point, I think, from the point of view of looking at this entire subject. Having seen around 30, 40 years of, I think, how corporates have emerged and how they have basically done their succession planning. In those days, I think it was not so sophisticated and so methodical the way it is currently happening. Currently, I think, suppose if Akash, Isha, and Anant, if they are taking over respective businesses, then the process installed over there is, I think, you create a mentorship board over there. That mentorship board is basically constituting of outside experts. At the same time, I think within the family, the people are getting into it. And I think this is where the entire process is run. This kind of mentorship is being created so that I think the finer aspect, the softer aspect of the businesses are also taught in the particular situation. And to me, I think it's a very fundamentally strong process. I think in case of, say, for example, just as the example sake, I think Bajaj Finance, I think did that part of it when Mr. Nanu Pamdani took over the mentorship role to bring up the entire Bajaj Finance management for Sanjeev Bajaj and all. Similar situation is already happening in case of Reliance, where in Akash, Isha and Anand, they are being given respective portfolio of businesses. Mentorship is being created. Board of directors are basically there to give them support and advice, and at the same time very strong. I think the importantly, there are some of the best talents that they have already hired as far as I think their operational management is concerned. So when you have a strong talent at the bottom and the ground level, you have a supervisory body in form of board of directors, and you have mentorship in form of the advisors and the mentors. In my viewpoint, I think that creates a typical successful success planning. I think succession planning, as we call it as, I would like to believe that I think they have put in a good roadmap, and I think that gives a lot of clarity for the investors of Reliance also, that I think this company is going to be playing in the safe hands of the young generations.
Okay, understood that. So, just a last word from both of you, starting with you, Mr. Choksey. Reliance Industries and Mukesh Ambani has given this timeline of 2023 December to roll out 5G. You're very bullish on it. Mr. Sharma is not very bullish on the geo aspect and the telecom business per se. But what do you both of you see? Really, 1.5 years down the line, what could be Reliance Industries trading at?
So, if I believe that I think the growth in this particular business is compounded at around 25%, then in such situation, I think my take would be that I think the stock price would also compound similarly. In fact, I think if you look at last 2 years of Reliance's journey, I think every year it has given from low price to the high price that it's made a return of around 30%. And in between, whenever it adjusts its price and make a new base, I think it further, I think, expands and gives 30% return. In my viewpoint, I think 25% would be a safe assumption as far as I think the return is concerned for Reliance Industries over next 5 years.
वीडियो पसंद आया तो हमें लाइक, कमेंट, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें।